In 2018, Sony Santa Monica Studio created one of the best mixes of combat and storytelling ever made, God of War. God of War Ragnarok has a lot to live up to, and so far I'm happy to say I'm loving the opening moments. I've had the opportunity to play through the first 5 hours or so, and it has delivered an engaging, emotional story with portions of Kratos violently ripping things in half, sprinkled in between touching story beats. If you're unfamiliar with what took place in the 2018 God of War, or just want a refresher, there's a bite-sized recap available at the main menu. This has become a tradition for PlayStation games that I hope continues. Having that synopsis gives us a reminder of the tone the original left off with as I start this new adventure. And that tone for Kratos and Atreus is one of understanding and care between them. Today they have a common goal of survival, and they are working to stay safe during the 3-year Fimbulwinter. During the opening scenes of Ragnarok, it's clear that Atreus is a very different person than his father. He takes more time to interact with animals they encounter, like the wolves who pull their sled, or an octopus that sends him off with a gift. He even chooses to approach a situation that his father clearly had other ideas about in his own way, as Kratos tries to advise him using his past experiences as a lesson. Atreus has matured a lot in Ragnarok, and you'll literally hear that maturation from the first time he speaks. The differences in personalities strike a wonderful balance between Atreus and Kratos. Atreus wants to explore and uncover the mysteries of the world, whereas Kratos seems content keeping his head down and, more importantly, keeping his son safe. He struggles to admit that maybe he could learn a thing or two from his son.
Stop thinking like a father for a moment and start thinking like a general.
No!
Atreus is getting older, and with that age, he's becoming more independent. It feels like their relationship has been solidified in the time since the 2018 God of War, but hiding away in a snowy place protected by magic trees is enough to make anyone want to get out and explore. The primary danger that they have looming at the start of Ragnarok is Freya. She's still mourning the death of Baldur and seems inconsolable, while also understandably furious about the death of her son. It becomes clear that the safe haven this father and son have built won't remain so for very much longer. To tell the story of Ragnarok, the game again uses that continuous camera shot. Here's what we were told by God of War animation director Bruno Velazquez about why they chose to go that route.
The goal of that is so that the player feels that they're going along in that journey with Kratos and Atreus, and that you never really leave their side.
Not only does this make you more invested in each moment, but a shouted "look out" or "shield bash now" can be the difference between life or death.
We try to approach God of War Ragnarok with the story never really ends. So you're always being told the story, even through combat, even through encounters, dialogue that happens between the characters outside of combat and the cinematics, like while you're exploring. So we just always think like, okay, the story should never really end. There shouldn't be a clear divide. So I think by having that approach, it helps us to sort of blend the two together and string them together.
Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir do explore new areas like the warmer European climate found in the wetlands and the pit mines as they search for Tyr. The wetlands are the first time Ragnarok really opens up and lets you look around. You're able to go directly to the next story beat, as clearly indicated by a large yellow icon beckoning you to continue, or get lost on various side tasks as indicated by bright blue icons across the map. There's collectibles to find, like the ravens that make a return, and there's also lore, apples, and legendary chests to open that will require some searching to plunder. Oh, and of course, plenty of pots to smash for a little extra hack silver. I admit I also smashed many of the pumpkins found in the wetlands, but mostly just because I like that squishy sound they make when they explode. Hey, you know what else makes a cool squishy sound? An enemy as I dismember it in battle. And thankfully, those dismemberments won't always be Kratos using his hands or blades to do said dismembering, because the team has now added weapon-specific finishers.
That was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got from the previous game. So for the first time ever in a God of War game, we were able to have weapon-specific kills. So in the previous games, you would always default back to the Blades of Chaos, or Kratos would just use his hands. But this time around, if you have the axe equipped or you have the blades equipped, you're going to get a different kill.
Playing through on Give Me God of War is not for the faint of heart. Any mistake was met with a massive chunk of health evaporating, or a meeting from my old friend, the try again screen. However, it also forces you to take your time, consider how every encounter unfolds, what armor you select, and what shield will work best when perfecting your parries. Getting through an island unscathed is exhilarating. If you're going to jump in on this difficulty like I did, Bruno has a few tips to share.
As you can see in God of War Ragnarok, now we have a lot more of a traversal and mobility that can be used in combat as well, so that you can grapple up to ledges and pull yourself up, which adds more verticality to the combat. And that's obviously an inspiration from the previous games, right, where Kratos could do that before. We wanted to sort of like draw inspiration from those old games and see how we can bring back some of those fan favorite moves.
One blessing that made this difficulty setting a little bit more bearable was mid-point boss battle checkpoints. If you've managed to clear a checkpoint and are low on health, the game will give you just enough to stop that rapid heartbeat noise and give you a chance to look around the field to see if there's any health power-ups laying around. And in just this short time alone, we've faced off against several bosses, including a very large, very angry bear, a ferociously large lizard that spews area of effect lightning attacks at you, and none other than the Odin son himself, Thor. The Thor fight was amazing. From his bravado throughout the entire encounter to the way he taunts Kratos, the fight was a highlight and did not disappoint. To keep it somewhat spoiler-free by focusing on the attacks, I'll say it wasn't too tough to get by, that the moves with the hammer were a lot of fun to dodge, and the thunderous slaps were a lot of fun to parry, and then follow up with a slap to Thor's noggin. Every fight presents its own unique challenge. But my reward is figuring out how to get my timing right and figuring out how to conquer each boss's unique moveset. And part of that planning includes picking the best skills to unlock along the way. And one thing I love to see is the option to disable skills if they're messing up your timing when you're doing combos. Pro tip, do not sleep on leveling up Atreus. His sonic arrows are legendary, as they'll stop enemies dead in their tracks or prevent them from powering up to the next difficulty tier.
This time, we also wanted to expand his repertoire and to show him that he's more of a seasoned fighter now, that he's been training with Kratos for like 3 years during Fimbulwinter. So we actually added a lot of melee moves for him as well, so that when you're near the enemy, it doesn't feel like he's just only relying on his arrows. So then we have a lot of cool melee moves. He still jumps on the enemies and holds them like in 2018. And there's options there where like we allow Kratos to even command him a little bit more than he did in 2018. So I think just the fact that he has both range and close-up melee, it allows us to sort of make it feel more natural that he's collaborating and helping Kratos during the fights.
There are also different shields to choose that react much differently in combat and do a great job of lending to your playstyle. The Dauntless Shield, my personal favorite, is considered high risk, high reward, as you'll need to perfect your parry timing. But if you do, you'll be able to double tap the parry button and return that energy to your foe for a massive hit of stun damage. Inversely, there's the Stonewall Shield that will absorb attacks and once charged up will return those strikes as a blast of damage to enemies nearby. It's just the right amount of RPG without being too overwhelming. And all of the garb you wear is important, as it also helps you build towards your playstyle, and each piece has their own strength or defense stat to consider as you level them up. There are important options to consider in combat. Do you go more for strength? You can build towards damage, stun attacks, defense, or runic attacks. And these are pivotal decisions you'll need to make as you manage your resources. I have been building towards parries and stuns, which Velazquez points out is a great option for players.
You can actually finish enemies much faster if you stunt them and then get to the finisher quicker. So again, it's offering options for the players. So yeah, some things will allow you to deal more damage, some things will allow you to deal more stun. So it'll be fun for the players to see what play style they pick and what they gravitate towards.
The combat continues to be masterful in Ragnarok, and using all the abilities at your disposal is the difference between life and death. And leverage the new option of climbing vertically when an annoying acid-spitting Grim or Nightmare won't get off your case. Grims are a new projectile-spewing toad-like creature that I particularly enjoyed watching Kratos eviscerate. So as I reach the end of my preview window, I'm eager to hop back in and keep playing more God of War Ragnarok. I'm incredibly excited to see how this story unfolds. And I hope I've left you eager to hear more, and you will on Thursday, November 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific when a reviewer posts his thoughts here on IGN. For more God of War, check out this Norse myth expert reacting to the Ragnarok story. And for more on all things gaming, well, you're already in the right place.
Fate only binds you if you let it. Do what is necessary. Not because it is written. We will make our own destiny.